And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our 2024 MLR Conference Championship Game Preview by yours truly, Rugby411. It is going to be an exciting weekend of games. You have your four teams left, two fighting for the Eastern Conference, two fighting for the Western Conference. Arguably one of the teams that's kind of a surprise being there, pulling off easily the biggest upset in Major League Rugby playoff history. But you have some very interesting games coming up, and one of them in particular a little bit hard to call. But we'll get into it right now. First of all, both games can be watched Fox Sports 1 if you have the ability to catch them live. Then you gotta wait 24 hours. Though the last weekend's playoff games, they actually uploaded the games a little bit earlier than 24 hours. So, again, check them out on the Rugby Network afterwards. You can watch them on demand. Or, again, if you watch them on live on Fox Sports 1, check them out whenever you can. As I've always mentioned before, the Rugby Network, an absolute amazing streaming service, absolutely free. If you have the time and you want to, you can watch every game this last season. A lot of really amazing games. And of course, you can watch all the conference games and the championship games, not live, a little bit later on, but it is a great source for everything rugby, not just MLR. You have college games, you have games internationally, play a little bit of money, and you can watch Premiership, which will start in October. It is such a great streaming service. Again, I don't understand why, if you're a rugby fan in the United States, I don't know why you wouldn't at least have it on your iPad or phone. Anyways, going on. First thing, Saturday, July 27th, we kick off 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Eastern Conference Championship on the line. The Chicago Hounds taking on your reigning defending MLR champions, the New England Free Jacks. Chicago was the second seed, technically, in the playoffs. I'm sorry, they were the third seed, technically, in the playoffs, while New England was the one seed. This is the very first time that Chicago has ever made the playoffs, while again, New England is defending their MLR crown. In my way too early predictions, I was predicting these two teams would probably finish in the Eastern Conference at top. You know, they faced each other only 3 times. New England has won 2 of them. Chicago just won their first time beating New England in their last game. Facing off against each other in the regular season. Chicago defeated New England on May 5th, 26-20 at New England. So that's got to be something you got to keep in mind. They defeated New England at New England. New England did defeat Chicago earlier in the season in Chicago, but the fact that Chicago has beaten New England in Veterans Memorial Stadium, it could play a factor into this game. I mean, not jumping too quickly forward, but Dallas, last time they beat the Houston SaberCats, they played them in the regular season, and they beat them in the regular season in Houston. So there may be something to that, being able to prove that you can beat an opponent in their home stadium. It can play a big factor into this game. Now, this one's a hard one to call. New England has looked very, very dominant. Chicago, as I've mentioned before, was shaky this whole entire season until, unfortunately, the loss of their head coach, Sam Harris. Now they've been undefeated ever since. They looked very, very dominant in their playoff win against NOLA Gold. I really do think Chicago can pull this off. It's very hard, I feel, to do back-to-back championships. Seattle's the only one that's done it so far. And we'll talk about them later on. But that was at the very beginning, the infancy of the league, the very first 2 years. The league has obviously evolved competition-wise. I don't know if New England can go back-to-back or maybe make a back-to-back appearance. I'm going to go Chicago. I think Chicago can pull off the victory and head to San Diego for that MLR Shield. Moving on, the next game, Sunday, July 28th, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Your upset kings, Dallas Jackals, first time in playoff history as well, first time in the playoffs, taking on your two-time Major League Rugby champions, the Seattle Seawolves, in Starfire Stadium in Tukwila, Tequila, Seattle. Yeah, this one is going to be interesting. Dallas does not have the best record against Seattle. Seattle has won 5 times over Dallas. Dallas has only won 1. But, again, the last time that these two played, Dallas beat Seattle in Seattle 14-7. You know, that one's going to be interesting because, again, that game, I don't feel that game was either team being 100%. Now, take that for what that is. It doesn't necessarily mean everything. But I don't feel the teams that were in that game when Dallas beat Seattle 14-7 are the same 2 teams that will be on the pitch in this game. Again, Starfire Stadium is a fortress. It's very hard to beat Seattle in Seattle. It's going to be a big task for Dallas to beat Seattle in Seattle again. Now, Dallas did beat Houston in Houston. And it's not to say that Dallas can't, but I don't feel Seattle will. Now that, of course, obviously that they've seen what Dallas has done, I don't think Seattle's going to take Dallas lightly. Now, I'm not saying Houston took Dallas lightly, but I really did feel in that game, Houston kind of slept on Dallas. I don't think Seattle will do the same thing. Very much there's a seawall in Seattle. Very much there's a 16th man in that stadium because it is very loud. I think Seattle will be able to convincingly keep their MLR Shield hopes alive and possibly be three-time Major League Rugby champions. It should be interesting, and it is very interesting with these playoffs that you have the only 2 teams left in the league that have won championships. Unfortunately, the only other 2 teams that have won championships are LA Giltinis and, of course, the New York Rugby. Our Rooney Rugby New York are unfortunately no longer around, but your only 2 championship teams have made it back into the playoffs. But again, it's going to be interesting to see if they can walk into San Diego to hopefully pick up that shield again. Like I said, I don't know if New England can do it. I do think Seattle will be able to do it. The Seattle-Chicago game will be really good if that happens. I feel, to be honest, any of the possibilities will be interesting. New England, Seattle will definitely be an interesting game as well. Hey, Dallas, New England, that is not impossible either. Chicago, Dallas. Hey, you might have a very interesting dog bowl in San Diego between 2 rival teams. So, it'll be very, very interesting. But I do feel Chicago has a great chance. Seattle has a great chance. But as we've seen, anything can happen in Major League Rugby. So again, those are 2 games. Check them out. Fox Sports 1. It'll be a very interesting weekend. And of course, again, 24 hours later, it will be on the Rugby Network. As always, I do appreciate it. I love the fact that you guys have been watching my videos. I do appreciate the support. I hope you guys enjoy our conference championship weekend coming up. And as always, I'll see you on the pitch.